Pillow friends, this story starts with sleep paralysis. Or at least that's what she thought. But here's the problem. Sleep paralysis doesn't leave bruises. It doesn't appear on security footage. And it absolutely does not follow you when you're awake. Yet this did all three. This is Jessica's account of 6 weeks that changed her life forever in the fall of 2023. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit like and comment down below. Tell me, where are you watching from? I want to know. Thank you for being here. Lights off. Volume up. Let's begin. My name is Jessica. I'm 29 years old. I work as a marketing coordinator for a nonprofit organization in Washington, D.C. It's the kind of job that sounds important, but really means I manage social media campaigns, write press releases, and answer emails at all hours. The pay is decent. The stress is constant. I'd been at the organization for 2 years when this started. I live alone in a one-bedroom apartment in Logan Circle, 3rd floor of a renovated brownstone building. The neighborhood is nice. Trendy coffee shops, restaurants, young professionals everywhere. I moved there in March of 2023, 6 months before the first episode. The apartment was perfect for me. Exposed brick walls, hardwood floors, big windows facing the street. Rent was higher than I wanted to pay, but I loved the place. My bedroom faced the back of the building, quieter than the street side. The window looked out over a small courtyard shared by the neighboring buildings. Thick walls, a few trees, some potted plants. The downstairs neighbor kept. Nothing unusual, nothing threatening. The first episode happened on a Tuesday night, September 26, 2023. Dot had been working late on a campaign hunch. Our executive director wanted everything lit by morning, which meant I was responding to emails and making last-minute edits until almost midnight. I finally shut my laptop around 11:45, brushed my teeth, changed into an old college t-shirt, and got into bed. I fell asleep almost immediately. I woke up at 3:17 a.m. I know the exact time because I could see my alarm clock on my nightstand. The red digital numbers were the only light in the room. 3:17. I couldn't move. My eyes were open. I was completely conscious, but my body wouldn't respond. I tried to lift my hand. Nothing. Tried to turn my head. Nothing. Tried to sit up. My muscles wouldn't fire. It was like being trapped inside my own body. The first thought was stroke, heart attack, something medically catastrophic. Then I remembered reading about sleep paralysis years ago. Your brain wakes up before your body does. The paralysis that keeps you from acting out dreams doesn't release right away. It's terrifying but harmless. Usually lasts less than a minute. I tried to stay calm, told myself it would pass. Focused on my breathing. That's when I felt the weight. Something pressed down on my chest. Not heavy enough to hurt, but definitely there. Like someone had placed a hand over my sternum and was leaning their weight onto it. The pressure increased slowly. My breathing got harder, shallow. I tried to take a deep breath and couldn't. Panic set in. I could move my eyes. That was it. I looked toward the foot of my bed. There was a figure standing there. Tall, maybe 6 feet. Completely black. Not like a person wearing black clothes. I mean the absence of light. A human-shaped void. I couldn't see any features. No face. No details. Just a dark silhouette against the slightly lighter darkness of my room. It wasn't moving. Just standing there, watching me. The pressure on my chest increased. I tried to scream. My throat wouldn't work. Tried to thrash, to break free. Nothing. My body was completely locked. The figure tilted its head. A slow, deliberate movement. Like it was studying me. Then suddenly, the paralysis broke. I gasped in air like I'd been underwater. Sat up so fast I got dizzy. My hands flew to my chest, expecting to feel something there. But I was alone. The figure was gone. My bedroom was empty. Just me, my bed, my furniture, the dim red glow of the alarm clock. 3:18 a.m. The whole thing had lasted less than 2 minutes. I sat there for a long time, breathing hard, my heart hammering in my chest. I turned on my bedside lamp, checked my room, looked in the closet, behind the door, even under the bed like a kid. Nothing. I was completely alone. I knew what it was. Sleep paralysis. Textbook case. The paralysis, the chest pressure, the hallucination of a figure, all classic symptoms. I'd read about the shadow person phenomenon. Your brain, caught between sleep and waking, creates the sensation of a presence in the room. It's evolution, ancient survival instinct. Better to imagine a threat and be wrong than miss a real predator. It made perfect sense. I was stressed, working too much, not sleeping enough. My brain misfired. That's all it was. I told myself that as I lay back down, kept the lamp on, eventually fell back asleep around 4:30. When I woke up at 7 for work, the whole thing felt distant, dreamlike, unsettling, but explainable. I Googled sleep paralysis while drinking my coffee, read a dozen articles. Everything matched my experience. The time sleep paralysis often happens in the early morning hours during REM sleep. The paralysis, the chest pressure, the hallucinations, even the specific image of a dark figure was incredibly common. So common there are cultural names for it all over the world. The old hag in Newfoundland, the nightmare in Germanic folklore, shadow people in modern descriptions. I felt better after reading that. It was a known thing, medical, nothing supernatural, just my brain playing tricks. I went to work, had a busy day with the campaign launch, mostly forgot about it. That night, I went to bed around 11:30, fell asleep easily, and woke up at 3:17 a.m. Again. Same thing, couldn't move, chest pressure, and the figure was back, standing in the exact same spot at the foot of my bed. Same height, same absence of features, just watching me. This time I knew what it was. I told myself it wasn't real. Sleep paralysis, hallucination, my brain creating patterns. I focused on staying calm, on breathing, on waiting for it to pass. The figure took a step closer. My breath caught. The pressure on my chest increased. The figure took another step. Slow, deliberate. It was moving around the side of my bed now, toward the nightstand. I tried to scream. Nothing came out. It stopped next to my bed, right next to where my head was on the pillow. I could only move my eyes, but I could see it in my peripheral vision. That dark shape, looming over me. Then it leaned down. I felt breath on my face, cold, not like air conditioning, like something that had never been warm. It smelled wrong, stale, metallic, like old pennies and dust. The paralysis broke. I lurched out of bed so violently I hit my knee on the nightstand, scrambled backward until my back hit the wall, turned on every light in my apartment, checked every room, every closet, every window, all locked, all empty. 3:19 a.m. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I called in sick to work the next day, Wednesday, September 28th. I'd been awake for 24 hours and looked like hell. Told my boss I had food poisoning. Spent the day researching sleep paralysis. The information was consistent. Sleep paralysis is common. About 8% of people experience it, at least once. More frequent in people who are sleep deprived, stressed, or have irregular sleep schedules. All of which described me perfectly. The hallucinations were normal. Your brain, partially dreaming while partially awake, creates sensory experiences that aren't there. The feeling of a presence, the shadow figure, the chest pressure, that was just your diaphragm, still partially paralyzed from REM sleep, making breathing feel restricted. Everything had an explanation. But 2 nights in a row, that seemed unusual. Most articles said sleep paralysis was sporadic, occasional, not consecutive nights. I found a sleep forum where people discussed their experiences. Read through hundreds of posts. Some people reported clusters of episodes several nights in a row during particularly stressful periods. One woman said she had it every night for a week after her father died. Another guy said work stress triggered a 2-week stretch of episodes. Okay, I could accept that. I was stressed. Campaign launch. Long hours. I probably just needed to get my sleep schedule back on track. I decided to take precautions. I read that sleep position matters. Sleeping on your back increases the likelihood of episodes. I'd been on my back both nights, so I'd sleep on my side. I also read that sleep hygiene helps: regular bedtime, no screens before bed, cool dark room, no caffeine after 2 p.m. I could do all of that. That night, I followed every rule. Herbal tea instead of wine. No laptop after 8 p.m. Read a physical book for an hour. Set my thermostat to 68 degrees. Got in bed at 10:30, positioned myself carefully on my left side, extra pillow to keep me from rolling onto my back. I fell asleep around 11. I woke up at 3:17 a.m., on my back. I must have rolled over in my sleep, and the paralysis was already there. I was locked, couldn't move anything except my eyes. The figure was standing closer this time, not at the foot of the bed, not by the nightstand, right next to my bed, close enough that if I could move my arm, I could touch it. The chest pressure was immediate, heavier than before. I struggled to breathe. Each inhale was work. My heart was racing, but I couldn't move to check my pulse. Couldn't sit up, couldn't do anything. The figure just stood there, that featureless dark shape. I couldn't see eyes, but I could feel it watching me, studying me. Then it reached out. I saw the movement in my peripheral vision, a dark shape extending from the figure's side, an arm reaching toward my face. I tried everything. I tried to scream, tried to move, tried to wake myself up like you do in nightmares. Nothing worked. My body wouldn't respond. The hand stopped inches from my face. I could feel the cold radiating from it. That same metallic smell, stronger now. The hand hovered there for what felt like minutes, but was probably only seconds. Then it touched my forehead. The cold was instant. Shocking, like touching dry ice. It didn't hurt exactly, but it was so intensely cold that it felt wrong, unnatural. And then I heard it. A voice, not out loud. Inside my head, a whisper that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. 3:17. The paralysis broke immediately. I threw myself out of bed so hard, I landed on the floor. Scrambled to the light switch, turned on every light. The room was empty. My forehead was freezing cold to the touch. I looked at my alarm clock. 3:17 a.m. Still, it hadn't changed, like time had frozen during the episode. I watched the clock, waited. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. 3:18. Time started again. I didn't sleep that night, or the next day. I called in sick again. Told my boss it was worse than I thought. Might need a few days. I spent Thursday researching obsessively. Sleep paralysis didn't explain the voice. Hallucinations, yes. Visual, yes. Even the sense of presence, but a clear, articulated voice inside your head. I found some articles that mentioned auditory hallucinations during sleep paralysis. Buzzing sounds, footsteps, whispers, but they were usually indistinct. Background noise, not clear words, not messages. And definitely not the same message 3 nights in a row. 3:17, the time I woke up, the time it happened, every single night. I started looking into numerology, folklore, religious significance of numbers. I found nothing meaningful about 3:17. It wasn't a significant time in any mythology I could find. Not a witching hour, not a demonic hour, nothing, just a random time. Except it wasn't random. Not anymore. Thursday night, I tried something different. I decided I wouldn't sleep. I'd stay awake through 3:17 a.m. and see what happened. If this was sleep paralysis, then being fully awake should prevent it completely. I drank coffee, watched movies, paced my apartment, played loud music, kept every light on. At 3 a.m. I was wide awake, alert. Standing in my kitchen, drinking my 4th cup of coffee, I watched the clock on my microwave. 3:15, 3:16, 3:17. Nothing happened. I felt relieved, vindicated. See, it was sleep paralysis. If I wasn't asleep, nothing happened. It was all in my head. My brain misfiring during the transition between sleep and waking. I relaxed, made another cup of coffee, decided I'd stay up until sunrise just to be safe, then sleep during the day. Reset my sleep schedule completely. At 3:42 a.m., I went to the bathroom. I finished, washed my hands, looked up at the mirror. The figure was standing behind me in the reflection. I spun around. Nothing there. I looked back at the mirror. It was still there, in the reflection, standing directly behind where I was standing, close enough to touch me. But when I turned around, nothing. Empty bathroom. I looked at the mirror again. It was reaching for me. I ran. I didn't stop running until I was outside my building, standing on the sidewalk in my pajamas, and bare feet at 4 in the morning. I stood there shaking, my breath coming in gasps, staring up at my building. My apartment lights were all on. I could see them from the street. 3rd floor. My windows, bright and safe, and normal. But I couldn't go back inside. A jogger ran past and gave me a worried look. An early morning delivery truck rumbled by. The city was waking up. Normal, real, solid. I checked into a hotel Friday morning, a Holiday Inn near DuPont Circle. I couldn't go back to my apartment, not yet. I needed to think. I slept until 2 p.m. No episodes, no paralysis, no figures, just exhausted, dreamless sleep. When I woke up, I made a decision. I needed help, professional help. This was either a serious medical issue or I was losing my mind. Either way, I needed to talk to someone. I found a sleep clinic that had same-day appointments. I told them it was urgent. They fit me in at 4 p.m. The doctor was a woman in her 50s named Dr. Patterson. Kind face, patient. She listened while I explained everything. The paralysis, the figure, the voice, the mirror. I tried to stay calm and clinical about it, but I could hear the desperation in my own voice. She took notes, asked questions. How long had this been happening? 4 nights? Any history of sleep disorders? No. Any major life stress? Yes. Work? Any substance use? Just coffee and occasional wine? Any mental health history? No. She examined me, checked my vitals. Everything normal. She asked if I'd be willing to do a sleep study. I said yes. She said they could schedule me for next week. What do I do until then? I asked. Try to maintain regular sleep hours, she said. No caffeine after noon. No alcohol. Sleep on your side. Consider sleeping with a light on if it helps you feel safer. Is it dangerous? I asked. The sleep paralysis? No, she said. It's frightening, but it's not harmful. Your body knows how to breathe even when you feel like you can't. And the hallucinations, while vivid, aren't real. What if it's not sleep paralysis? I said. What if something else is wrong? She gave me a gentle look. Like what? I didn't know how to answer that. She prescribed me a low-dose sleep aid, something mild to help regulate my sleep cycle. She said stress-induced insomnia could trigger sleep paralysis, which could trigger more insomnia, which could trigger more sleep paralysis. A feedback loop. The medication might help break it. I filled the prescription on my way back to the hotel. I spent Friday night in a hotel room. Took the sleep aid at 10 p.m. Fell asleep easily. I woke up at 3:17 a.m. In the hotel, the paralysis was instant. I couldn't move. The figure was standing at the foot of the hotel bed. Same shape, same presence. But this time it wasn't alone. There were 3 more figures, standing along the walls of the hotel room. Same featureless dark shapes, all watching me. The voice came again. Not from any specific figure, from all of them, or from inside my head. I couldn't tell. 3:17. Then another voice, different tone. Same words, 3:17. Then a third voice, 3:17. They weren't asking. They were stating, confirming. Like they were counting down to something. The pressure on my chest was crushing. I couldn't breathe. My vision started to blur at the edges. Black spots. I was suffocating. Then all 4 figures moved at once. They glided toward the bed, not walking, floating, closing the distance in seconds. The paralysis broke just as they reached me. I launched out of bed, screaming. Hit the light switch. The room was empty. 3:18 a.m. I packed my bag, checked out at 4 a.m. The night clerk looked concerned but didn't ask questions. I sat in my car in the hotel parking lot as the sun came up, trying to figure out what to do. This wasn't sleep paralysis. It couldn't be. Sleep paralysis didn't follow you to different locations. It didn't multiply. It didn't have consistent timing down to the exact minute across multiple nights. Something was happening to me. Something real. I drove to a 24-hour diner and ordered coffee. I didn't drink. I sat in a booth by the window and Googled everything I could think of. Hauntings, attachments, curses, demonic oppression, shadow people. I read everything. Forums, Reddit threads, paranormal websites, religious texts. Some of what I read was clearly nonsense, but some of it resonated. Stories from people who described similar experiences. A presence that visited at the same time each night. Figures that appeared in multiple locations. A feeling of being watched, studied, hunted. Most of the advice was religious. Pray. Cleanse your space. Wear protective symbols. Sage. Salt. Holy water. I wasn't religious. My family was Catholic, but I hadn't been to church since I was a teenager. I didn't believe in demons or ghosts or any of it, but I also didn't have a better explanation. I found a metaphysical shop in Adams Morgan that opened at 10 a.m. I drove there and waited in the parking lot. When the shop opened, I went inside. The woman at the counter was maybe 30, with long dark hair and tattoos covering both arms. She looked up from a book she was reading and smiled. "Can I help you find something?" I didn't know where to start. "I think something is following me," I said. Her smile faded. She closed her book. "Tell me what's been happening." I told her everything. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. "How long has it been?" she asked. 6 days. "Since Tuesday. And it happens at the same time every night." 3:17 a.m. Exactly. She nodded slowly. "That's specific. Repetitive timing usually means intentional contact." "Contact with what?" "Could be a lot of things," she said. "Spirit, entity, attachment. Hard to say without more information. But the fact that it's escalating, one figure becoming multiple, following you to different locations, that's concerning. What do I do?" She walked to a shelf and started pulling items. Sage bundles, black salt, a small vial of oil, some kind of crystal on a cord. "Start with these," she said. "Sage your apartment thoroughly, every corner, every closet, windows and doors especially. Put salt on the windowsills and doorways. Wear this." She handed me the crystal pendant, black tourmaline. "It's grounding, protective." "Will that actually work?" I asked. She looked at me seriously. "I don't know, but it might help. And honestly, if something is targeting you this specifically, you need more than sage." "Like what?" "You need to figure out why. Things like this don't usually attach to people randomly. There's usually a reason, a connection, an invitation. I didn't invite anything, not consciously, but maybe you went somewhere you shouldn't have. Touched something. Opened a door without realizing it. I thought about that. Tried to remember anything unusual in the days before this started. Nothing came to mind. My life had been completely normal. Work, apartment, groceries, coffee shops. Nothing strange. I can't think of anything," I said. "Then you need to ask it directly." "Ask it? Ask the thing that's terrorizing me every night? If it's trying to communicate, there's a reason. The words it's saying, 317, that means something. You need to figure out what." I paid for the items. She wrote her phone number on the receipt. "If it gets worse, call me. I know someone who might be able to help. But try this first." I drove back to my apartment. I hadn't been there since Thursday night. Almost 48 hours. Standing outside my building in daylight, everything looked normal. Safe. I went inside. My apartment was exactly as I'd left it. Lights still on. Coffee mug on the counter. Unmade bed. Nothing disturbed. I followed the shopwoman's instructions. Burned sage in every room. Choking on the smoke, but doing it thoroughly. Put salt on all the windowsills and across the doorway thresholds. I felt ridiculous doing it. Like I was performing a ritual I didn't believe in. But I was desperate. I put on the black tourmaline necklace. It was heavier than it looked. I cleaned my apartment, changed my sheets, opened windows to air the place out. By evening, it felt normal again. At 10 p.m., I took another sleep aid, got in bed, kept one lamp on like the doctor suggested. I fell asleep around 11. I woke up at 3:17 a.m. The paralysis was there before I even fully woke. I couldn't move, but the figure wasn't at the foot of the bed. It was lying next to me. On the bed, right next to me. Close enough that I could feel the cold emanating from it. It was facing me. That featureless dark shape, where a face should be, was just void. But I could feel it looking at me. The voice came, close, intimate, like someone whispering in a lover's ear. "Why won't you listen?" The paralysis broke. I threw myself out of bed, hit the wall, scrambled to put distance between myself and the bed. Turned on every light. The room was empty. My bed was empty. The sheets were disturbed where I'd been lying, but nothing else was out of place. 3:18 a.m. I stood there shaking, my back against the wall, staring at my bed like it might come alive. "Why won't you listen?" That's what it had said. Not 3:17 this time. A question, directed at me like it was frustrated. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I sat on my couch with all the lights on, every door locked, the black tourmaline gripped in my fist so tight it left marks on my palm. When morning came, I called the number the shopwoman had given me. She answered on the second ring. "It's getting worse," I said. "Tell me." I described the night, the figure on my bed, the new message. She was quiet for a moment. "It's trying to communicate. That's actually progress." Progress? It was in my bed. I know it's terrifying, but if it wanted to hurt you, it would have by now. 6 nights, and you're not injured. That means it wants something else. What? Your attention. It's saying you're not listening. So listen. How? Tonight, when it happens. And it will happen. Don't fight it. Don't panic. Stay calm and pay attention. Really pay attention to what it shows you, what it says, what it wants you to understand. I can't do that. You have to, because this isn't going to stop until you give it what it wants. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I couldn't keep living like this. I'd called in sick to work for 4 days. I wasn't sleeping. I was barely eating. I could feel myself coming apart. I needed answers. I spent Saturday researching my apartment. I found the building records online. The building was constructed in 2019, only 4 years old. I searched for deaths at the address. Accidents. Crimes. Nothing. The building was clean. I looked into the land. What was there before the building? Historical records showed it had been a parking lot before 2019. Before that, commercial buildings dating back to the 1960s. Nothing remarkable. No hospitals. No cemeteries. No historical tragedies. Nothing that would explain why something was haunting this place. Unless it wasn't the place. Unless it was me. I thought about what the shopwoman said. Things don't usually attach to people randomly. There's usually a connection. I tried to remember the week before this started. September 18th through September 25th. The week before the first episode. Work had been busy. Campaign prep. Nothing unusual there. I'd gone grocery shopping. Went to my usual coffee shop. Had drinks with a coworker on Thursday night. Went to a yoga class Sunday morning. Nothing strange. Wait. Sunday. September 24th, 2 days before the first episode. After yoga, I'd walked home through Meridian Hill Park. It was a nice day. I'd taken a longer route. Walked through the park, down 16th Street, past the old buildings. I'd stopped at an estate sale. I remembered it now. A brownstone on Swan Street. They had furniture out on the sidewalk with price tags. I'd gone inside to look around. Old furniture. Books, dishes. Random household items from someone who'd died or moved away. I'd bought something. What was it? I looked around my apartment, tried to remember what I'd brought home. There, on my bookshelf, a small picture frame, brass, tarnished. I'd bought it because it looked vintage, Art Deco style. I thought I'd put a photo in it eventually. I picked it up. The glass was dirty. I wiped it with my sleeve. There was something behind the glass. Not a photo, a piece of paper, yellowed with age, with writing on it. I opened the back of the frame carefully. The paper slipped out. It was a handwritten note. Old ink. Neat cursive. It read, "To whoever finds this, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to follow me. I thought I could contain it. I was wrong. It comes at 3:17 a.m. every night. It won't stop. It won't leave. I can't live like this anymore. If you're reading this, it's found you too. I'm so sorry. There's only one way to make it stop. You have to go back to where it started. 1604 Corcoran Street. Basement. End it there. That's the only way. God forgive me." Mamage October 15th, 2019. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped the paper. October 15th, 2019. FOUR years ago, right after my building was constructed. MH. Someone who lived here before me, or someone who bought something from an estate sale, just like I did. 1604 Corcoran Street. I looked it up on my phone. It was an address in Adams Morgan, about a mile from my apartment. A historic building dating back to the 1890s. Read the note again. It won't stop. It won't leave. Just like what was happening to me. You have to go back to where it started. Basement. End it there. End what? How? I looked at the frame again, turned it over. On the back, stamped in faded gold lettering, property of Corcoran House Estate, 1604 Corcoran Street, NW. This frame came from that building. And whoever MH was, they'd hidden this note in it. A warning or instructions. 4 years ago. Had someone else found this frame? Experienced the same thing? Then what? Return the frame to another estate sale where I'd found it? Or had the frame been sitting in storage somewhere until 2 weeks ago when that estate sale happened? I didn't know. But I knew what I had to do. I had to go to 1604 Corcoran Street. I drove to Corcoran Street that afternoon, Saturday, October 1st. Exactly 1 week since the first EP, ISODE.1604. Corcoran was a 3-story brick row house, Victorian architecture, well-maintained but old, very old. The ground floor was a boutique furniture shop, closed on Saturdays according to the sign. I sat in my car across the street, staring at the building. This was insane. I was chasing a leaf from a 4-year-old note written by someone I'd never met about something I didn't understand. But what choice did I have? I got out of the car and walked up to the building, peered through the furniture shop windows. Expensive mid-century pieces, minimalist aesthetic, nothing sinister. I tried the door, locked. I walked around to the alley behind the building. There was a back entrance, also locked. But there was a window at ground level, a basement window. Dirty glass, dark inside. I crouched down and looked through. I couldn't see much. Concrete floor, boxes, storage space. Probably. I tried the window. It shifted. Not locked, just old and stuck. I looked around. The alley was empty. No one watching. I made a decision I never thought I'd make. I broke into the building. The window resisted, but I managed to slide it open enough to squeeze through. I dropped down into the basement, landing harder than I meant to. My ankle twisted, but I stayed upright. The basement was dark. I turned on my phone flashlight. Boxes everywhere. Furniture wrapped in plastic. Old inventory. Dust. The smell of mildew and old wood. I moved deeper into the space. The basement was bigger than I expected. Multiple rooms. Storage areas. I passed through one room, filled with stacked chairs. Another with rolled carpets. In the back corner, I found a door. Heavy wood, old hinges, a padlock. But it was hanging open, not locked. I pulled the door open. It creaked loud enough to make me freeze, listening for any sound from upstairs. Nothing. Behind the door was a staircase, leading down, a sub-basement. My phone flashlight barely penetrated the darkness below. I could see stone steps, rough walls, going down maybe 20 feet. Every instinct I had screamed at me not to go down there. But the note said basement, and this was the only basement level I hadn't explored. I started down the stairs. The temperature dropped immediately. It was cold down here, really cold. My breath came out in visible puffs. The sub-basement was a single long room, stone walls, low ceiling, no windows. It looked like original construction, maybe 1890 SE. It had probably been used for coal storage or root cellars back then. Now it was empty, except for one thing. In the center of the room was a circle, drawn on the floor in what looked like white chalk or salt, about 6 feet in diameter, and inside the circle were symbols, geometric patterns, words in a language I didn't recognize. And in the very center of the circle was a black stain, dark, irregular. It looked like someone had spilled ink or paint, but it was old. The concrete around it was discolored, like whatever it was had soaked into the stone. I approached slowly. My phone flashlight swept across the space. There was something written on the wall behind the circle, scratched into the stone with something sharp. Contained 03/17/1952, March 17th, 1952.317. 317. Oh my God, I whispered. This wasn't about the time. It was about the date, March 17th, 1952. Something happened here. Something was contained here. In this circle, in this basement, for 70 years, until someone broke the containment. I looked at the circle again. Parts of it were smudged. The symbols were partially erased. The salt line was broken in 3 places. Someone had disrupted it. and whatever was contained here got out. I heard a sound behind me. I spun around. The figure was standing at the bottom of the stairs, not in my sleep, not during paralysis. Right there, in the basement, in front of me. Solid, real. I ran. I didn't think. I just moved. I ran toward the stairs, but the figure was blocking them. I veered left, toward the far wall, looking for another exit. There wasn't one. I was trapped. I pressed my back against the wall, holding my phone out like a weapon, even though the light did nothing. The figure moved toward me. Slow. Deliberate. Then it stopped. Just stood there. 10 feet away, and for the first time, I saw details. Not much. It was still mostly shadow. But in the phone's light, I could see the suggestion of features. A face, or where a face had been. The shape of shoulders, hands. It had been a person once. "What do you want?" I managed to say. My voice came out as a whisper. The figure tilted its head, that same gesture from the first night. Then it raised one hand and pointed, not at me, at the circle behind me. I glanced back at the broken containment circle, then back at the figure. "You want me to fix it?" I said. The figure didn't move, didn't respond. But I understood. It wasn't haunting me. It was asking for help. It wanted to be contained again. I didn't know how to do this. I didn't know anything about containment rituals or protective circles or whatever this was. But the figure just stood there, waiting. I looked at the circle again. The salt line was broken in 3 places. The symbols were smudged but still partially visible. I had salt in my car. The black salt from the metaphysical shop. I'd bought it yesterday and never used it. "I need to get something," I said to the figure. "From my car. Will you wait here?" The figure didn't respond, but it didn't move either. I edged toward the stairs, keeping my eyes on the figure. It watched me but didn't follow. I climbed the stairs as fast as I could, squeezed back through the basement window, ran to my car. I grabbed the black salt, grabbed everything from the shop. Sage, the oil. I didn't know what I'd need. I ran back to the building, climbed through the window again, descended both sets of stairs back to the sub-basement. The figure was still there, standing in the same spot. I approached the circle carefully, got down on my knees at the edge. The breaks in the salt line were obvious. 3 gaps, each about 6 inches wide, like someone had deliberately scuffed them out. I opened the black salt container and started pouring. I tried to follow the original line, filling in the gaps. My hands were shaking so badly, I spilled more than I meant to, but I managed to complete the circle. Then I looked at the symbols inside. They were partially erased, but I could see the shapes underneath. Geometric patterns, triangles within circles, lines radiating out from the center. I didn't know how to redraw them. I didn't know what they meant. I looked up at the figure. "I don't know what these symbols are," I said. "I don't know how to fix this." The figure moved. It came toward me. I flinched back, but it didn't reach for me. It crouched down next to the circle, on the opposite side from where I was kneeling. And then it began to draw. With one dark finger, it traced symbols in the dust and grime on the floor. Not inside the circle, outside it. Showing me, I watched. Tried to memorize the shapes. Then I looked at the partially erased symbols inside the circle and started redrawing them with my finger. It took a long time. The figure showed me each symbol one at a time. Waited while I replicated it inside the circle. Corrected me when I got it wrong. We worked together in silence. I didn't understand what we were doing, but the figure knew, and somehow that was enough. When we finished, the circle was complete again, the salt line unbroken, the symbols redrawn. The figure stood up, looked down at the circle, then it looked at me. "Is this right?" I asked. The figure nodded. A slow, deliberate movement. Then it stepped into the circle. As soon as it crossed the salt line, something changed. The air pressure shifted. My ears popped. The temperature dropped even further. My breath came out in thick clouds. The figure stood in the center of the circle over the black stain, and then it began to dissolve. Not violently, slowly, like smoke dissipating. The dark shape breaking apart, wisps of shadow drifting upward, fading into nothing. In seconds, it was gone. The basement was empty. I knelt there for a long time, staring at the circle, waiting for something else to happen. Nothing did. The temperature slowly returned to normal. The oppressive feeling in the air lifted. It was over. I pulled out my phone, took pictures of the circle, the symbols, the dates scratched on the wall, evidence or insurance. I didn't know. Then I left, climbed back through the window, got in my car, drove home. It was 6 p.m. by the time I got back to my apartment. I was exhausted, physically and mentally drained, but also strangely calm. I made tea, ate leftover takeout, took a shower. At 10 p.m. I got into bed. For the first time in a week, I wasn't afraid. I slept through the night. No paralysis, no figure, no voice. I woke up at 7 a.m. to sunlight streaming through my windows. I checked my phone. No missed time, no gaps. I'd slept straight through. For the first time in 8 days, I felt rested. I got up, made coffee, checked my apartment. Everything was normal. The sage I'd burned, the salt on the windowsills, all still there, but the oppressive feeling that had been hanging over my apartment for a week was gone. Whatever had been haunting me was gone. I called the metaphysical shop. The woman answered. "It's over," I said. "Whatever it was, it's over." "What did you do?" I told her everything. The note, Corcoran House, the Containment Circle, working with the figure to repair it. She was quiet for a long time. "You repaired a Containment Circle," she said finally. "I think so. The figure showed me how." "That's remarkable. Most people would have run, or made it worse." "What was it?" I asked. "The figure? I don't know. It could have been a lot of things. A spirit bound to that location, a guardian that was trapped, and even something darker that someone managed to contain decades ago." The date on the wall said 1952. 70 years. That's a long time to be trapped. Maybe it just wanted to be free, or maybe it wanted to make sure the containment was properly restored before it could rest. "Why me?" I asked. "Why did it come to me?" "You bought that frame. You brought part of that place into your home. That created a connection, an open door. It followed that door to you." I thought about that. The brass frame sitting on my bookshelf. "What should I do with the frame?" I asked. "Get rid of it. But don't just throw it away. Return it to the building if you can, or destroy it. Break the glass, burn the frame, sever the connection completely." I hung up. I looked at the frame on my bookshelf, walked over and picked it up. Such a small thing, an innocent purchase at an estate sale, but it had connected me to something I didn't understand. Something that had been contained for 70 years until someone broke that containment and unleashed it. Who broke it? Who disrupted the circle in 2019? I thought about the note. Match October 15th, 2019. WHOEVERMH was. They'd experienced the same thing I had. The nightly visits, the 3:17 timing, the terror, and they'd figured out how to fix it. But instead of just repairing the circle themselves, they'd left a note, hidden it in the frame, passed the burden on. Why? Maybe they couldn't face going back to that basement. Maybe the experience had broken them. Maybe they'd tried to fix it and failed. Or maybe they knew someone else would need the information eventually. I took the frame outside, found a heavy rock in the alley behind my building, smashed the glass, broke the brass frame into pieces, put everything in a trash bag, and threw it in the dumpster. The note I kept, folded it carefully, and put it in my desk drawer. Evidence, or a reminder. That night, I went to bed at a normal time, fell asleep easily. I woke up at 7:30 a.m., no episodes, no paralysis, nothing. The next night, the same, and the night after that, a week passed. Then 2, and a month, nothing. It was really over. I went back to work. Explained I'd had a medical issue, but it was resolved now. My boss was understanding. The campaign I'd been working on had launched successfully without me. Life went on. I returned to normal, but I kept researching. I looked into the history of 1604 Corcoran Street, found records dating back to 1892 when the building was first constructed. It had been a private residence until the 19404s. Then it changed hands multiple times. Commercial use, apartments. Eventually the furniture shop. In March 1952, there was a police report, a disturbance at the address. No details, no arrest, just a notation that officers responded to a call. March 17th, 1952.The date on the wall. What happened that night? Who contained it? And what exactly did they contain? I searched newspaper archives, Found nothing. Whatever happened, it wasn't newsworthy. Or it was covered up. I thought about going back to the basement, taking another look, maybe finding more clues. But I didn't. Some doors, once closed, should stay closed. I'd fixed what was broken, restored what was disrupted. That was enough. Except for one thing. The note mentioned MH, someone who'd experienced this before me, who'd left instructions. I wanted to know who they were, if they were okay, if they'd survived. I searched online for death records, missing persons, anything connected to the initials MH and October 2019. I found something. A news article from October 18th, 2019, 3 days after the date on the note. A local woman found dead in apparent suicide. The article was brief. A woman named Margaret Hollis, 34, had been found dead in her apartment in Logan Circle, the same neighborhood I lived in. The medical examiner ruled it a suicide. No foul play suspected. Margaret Hollis. She felt sick. She'd written a note on October 15th. 3 days later, she was dead. Had she fixed the containment? Or had she given up? The article didn't say, but the timing suggested she never went back to that basement, never repaired the circle, just left the note, and I didn't want to think about it, but it meant I was probably the first person to actually complete what the note instructed, to go back to Corcoran House, to fix the containment. If Margaret had done it, she would have been free. The haunting would have stopped, but she didn't. She couldn't. The experience broke her, and 4 years later, I bought that frame at an estate sale, connected to the same entity, experienced the same terror, but I'd survived. I'd done what Margaret couldn't, and maybe that was the point. Maybe the entity, whatever it was, kept reaching out until someone was strong enough, or desperate enough, or lucky enough to finish what needed to be done. I printed Margaret's obituary, put it in my desk drawer next to the note. 2 pieces of a story I'd never fully understand. December 21st, 2023. 3 months since the last episode. Life had returned to completely normal. Work was busy. The holidays were approaching. I'd started dating someone. I'd met through a friend. Everything was good. I hadn't thought about the figure or Corcoran House in weeks. Until I got the message. It was a DM on Instagram, from an account I didn't recognize. No profile picture, no posts. Just a username, searching 317. The message said, "I think it's happening to me. The same thing, 317, every night. Please tell me you know what I'm talking about. Please tell me how to stop it." My blood ran cold. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I replied, "I know exactly what you're talking about, and I can help." We arranged to meet the next day. A coffee shop in DuPont Circle. Public, safe. She showed up 15 minutes late. A woman in her mid-20s. Dark circles under her eyes. She looked like I had 3 months ago. Exhausted, terrified, barely holding it together. Her name was Alicia. We sat in a corner booth, and she told me her story. It was almost identical to mine. Sleep paralysis at 3:17 a.m. A dark figure. Escalating encounters. She'd been experiencing it for 5 nights. "How did you find me?" I asked. "I've been searching online for anyone else experiencing this. Same time, same phenomenon. I found a Reddit thread from 4 years ago. Someone with the initials MH describing the exact same thing. And then I found comments from other people, including you. You posted about it back in September. I had posted on a sleep paralysis forum, looking for answers. I'd forgotten about it. I saw your username matched your Instagram," Alicia continued. "So I messaged you. I didn't know if you'd respond, but I'm desperate." I understood completely. "Did you buy something recently?" I asked. "From an estate sale or antique shop?" "Something old." She looked surprised. "Yes, a mirror. Victorian. I bought it at a flea market 2 weeks ago." "Where?" "Georgetown." "Why?" I told her everything. The frame, Corcoran House, the Containment Circle, how to fix it. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was pale. "So I have to break into that building?" she said. "The window in the back alley is probably still unsecured, and the Containment Circle should still be intact. I repaired it 3 months ago, but something must be wrong again. Or, I paused, or there's more than one. More than one? More than one entity, more than one containment. I don't know, but if you're experiencing the same thing, there's a connection. What do I do with the mirror? Destroy it, completely. Then go to Corcoran House. Check the sub-basement. If the circle is broken again, repair it. The entity will show you how. Will you come with me? I hesitated. I didn't want to go back to that place. I didn't want to risk reopening that door. But looking at Alicia, at the desperation and fear in her eyes, I couldn't say no. Yes, I said. I'll come with you. We went that night. I drove. Alicia sat in the passenger seat, silent and tense. We parked in the same spot I had 3 months ago. The building looked exactly the same. The furniture shop was closed. The alley was empty. We went to the basement window. It was still unlocked. We climbed through. The basement was darker than I remembered. Colder. We moved through the storage rooms with our phone flashlights, navigating the stacked furniture and boxes. The door to the sub-basement was closed. The padlock was back in place, but still unlocked. I pulled the door open. The stairs descended into darkness. Stay close, I said. We went down together. The sub-basement was unchanged. Same stone walls, same low ceiling, same cold air. But the containment circle was different. It wasn't broken. The salt line was intact. The symbols were still visible, but there was something new. A second circle, about 10 feet away from the first. Same size, same symbols. But this one was broken. The salt line disrupted in multiple places. The symbols smudged and incomplete. There were 2, I whispered. Alicia grabbed my arm. Look. A figure stood between the 2 circles. The same dark shape I'd seen before, but this one felt different. Angrier, more aggressive. It moved toward us. Run or repair, Alicia said, her voice shaking. I looked at the broken circle, at the figure approaching, and Alicia beside me. Repair, I said. I pulled out my phone and took pictures of the first circle, the one I'd fixed 3 months ago. The symbols were still clear. We could use them as a reference. Alicia had brought salt. She'd come prepared. We moved to the second circle. The figure stopped, watched us. We worked fast. I poured salt, filling in the breaks in the line. Alicia used her finger to redraw the symbols, referencing my photos. The figure circled us, not threatening, waiting. When we finished the circle, we stood back. The figure looked at the completed circle, then at us. Then it stepped inside. The same thing happened as before. The air pressure shifted. The temperature dropped. The figure began to dissolve, wisps of shadow breaking apart and fading. In moments it was gone. The basement was empty again. Alicia and I stood there, breathing hard. Is it over? She asked. For you, yes, I said. Destroy the mirror when you get home. Sever the connection. You should be fine. But there could be more, she said, looking at the 2 circles. More entities, more containments that break over time. She was right. 2 entities. 2 containments, both from the same location, both broken years apart. How many more were there? And who was going to fix them when they broke? Over the next 2 months, 3 more people contacted me, all of them experiencing the same thing. Sleep paralysis. At 3:17 a.m., dark figures, escalating encounters. All of them had bought something, an antique, a vintage item, always connected somehow to 1604 Corcoran Street. I helped each of them, met with them, explained what to do. Some wanted me to come with them to the basement, others went alone. Each time there was another broken circle, another containment that had failed. 5 circles total so far. 5 entities, all contained in that sub-basement in March 1st, 952. ALL slowly breaking free as their containments deteriorated. Over 70 years, I started keeping records. Names, dates, which circle was repaired when. I created a map of the sub-basement, marking each circle's location. There were more. I was sure of it. The sub-basement was large, plenty of space for additional containments. I hadn't explored the entire area, hadn't looked in every shadow. I started researching what happened in March 1952. What could require 5 separate containment circles? What could necessitate binding multiple entities in the same location? I found references to a cult that operated in DC in the late 1940s and early 1950s, the Order of the Eternal Watch. They believed in contacting entities from beyond the veil, summoning them, binding them, using them for knowledge or power. The group disbanded suddenly in 1952. No explanation. Members scattered. The leader, a man named Vincent Corcoran, disappeared. Vincent Corcoran, the same name as the street, the same name as the house. He'd owned 1604 Corcoran Street. It had been his residence. And according to property records, he'd built extensive renovations to the basement in 1951, preparing for something. In March 1952, something went wrong. The entities he'd summoned couldn't be controlled, couldn't be banished, so they were contained instead, bound in circles, trapped in the sub-basement. And 70 years later, those containments were failing, one by one. I estimated there could be as many as 10 or 12 circles down there. Maybe more, which meant more people would connect to them. More antiques from that house would surface. More victims would experience the 317 phenomenon. And eventually, someone would have to deal with all of them. I created a website. Simple. Anonymous. Just a single page with information. If you're experiencing sleep paralysis at 3:17 a.m. with a dark figure, you're not alone. This is real, and it can be stopped. Contact me. I posted the link on forums, Reddit threads, paranormal websites, anywhere people discuss sleep paralysis and shadow figures. Within a week, I had 20 messages. Within a month, over 100. Not all of them were real. Some were pranks. Some were people experiencing regular sleep paralysis, with no connection to Corcoran House. Some were just scared and looking for answers, but some were real. I could tell by the details, the exact time, the escalating pattern, the mention of antiques or vintage items. I helped who I could, provided instructions, offered to me in person if they were in the DC area. Some fixed their containments. Some were too afraid. Some disappeared and never contacted me again. I tried not to think about what happened to them. I also tried not to think about what would happen when all the containments eventually failed. When all the circles broke. When all the entities were free at the same time. Would they scatter? Would they attach to random people indefinitely? Or would they converge? Would they return to Corcoran House? I didn't know, but I knew I couldn't ignore it. On February 14th, 2024, 5 months after my first encounter, I made a decision. I was going to explore the entire sub-basement, document every circle, check every containment, then repair any that were close to failing. I wasn't going to wait for people to contact me in terror. I was going to be proactive. I gathered supplies, salt, chalk, flashlights. I printed out photos of the symbols from the circles I'd already repaired. I brought a notebook to document everything. And I went back to Corcoran House. It was late evening. The furniture shop was long closed. The building was dark. I climbed through the basement window, descended to the sub-basement. The 5 repaired circles were still intact, undisturbed. I moved deeper into the space, beyond where I'd explored before. The sub-basement extended further than I'd realized. Additional rooms, alcoves, storage areas carved into the foundation, and circles everywhere. Not 5, not 10, 17. 17 containment circles drawn on the floor throughout the sub-basement. Some large, some small, some with complex symbols, some simple, and 3 of them were already broken. I spent the entire night down there, repairing circles, redrawing symbols, reinforcing salt lines. Figures appeared as I worked, dark shapes emerging from the shadows, watching me. Some approached, some stayed distant. I wasn't afraid anymore. I understood now. They weren't trying to hurt anyone. They were trapped, confused, seeking help. I worked methodically, circle by circle. The figures guided me when I needed help with symbols I didn't understand. By dawn, all 17 circles were repaired. It's been 9 months since that night. The containments are holding. The website still gets messages, but fewer now. Maybe 5 or 6 a month instead of dozens. I check the sub-basement every few weeks, inspect the circles, reinforce any that look weak. I've become a kind of guardian, a caretaker for something I never asked to be responsible for. But someone has to do it. I think about Margaret Hollis often, the woman who left the note, who experienced this 4 years before me, who couldn't face going back to that basement. I understand why. This isn't something you can just walk away from. Once you're connected to it, you're connected forever. The knowledge, the responsibility, the understanding that there are things in this world that don't fit into normal categories, things that need to be contained. I also think about Vincent Corcoran, the man who summoned 17 entities and bound them in his basement. What was he trying to accomplish? What did he want from them? And where is he now? I searched for records of his death, found nothing. He simply disappeared in 1952, the same month the containments were created. Maybe he's dead. Maybe he's alive somewhere, an old man who knows what he unleashed. Or maybe he's down there too, in the 18th circle I haven't found yet. I don't know. What I do know is that every night at 3:17 a.m. I wake up. Not from paralysis, not from fear, just a habit now. An internal alarm clock set to that time. I wake up, check my phone, look around my bedroom, make sure everything is normal, and then I go back to sleep, because I know the containments are holding. I know the entities are bound. I know that for now, everyone is safe. But containments don't last forever. Eventually they'll fail again, maybe in 5 years, maybe in 50, and when they do, someone will have to fix them. I hope I'm still around to do it, but if I'm not, I've prepared. I've hidden notes, instructions, in various antiques and items that came from Corcoran House, hidden them in frames and mirrors and furniture. Just like Margaret did, because the next person who connects to these entities needs to know what to do. They need to know about the sub-basement, the circles, the symbols, the salt. They need to know that 317 isn't just a time. It's a date, a warning, a reminder. March 17th, 1952.The day, 17 entities were bound, and the day that connection echoes through everyone who touches anything from that place. If you're reading this, if you've experienced sleep paralysis at 3:17 a.m., if you've seen the dark figures, if you feel like you're losing your mind, you're not. It's real, and you can fix it. 1604, Corcoran Street Northwest, Washington, District of Columbia. Sub-basement. Find the broken circle, repair it. The entity will show you how, and when you're done, leave a note for the next person, because there will always be a next person. The containments don't last forever. That's Jessica's account. If you've experienced something similar, you're not alone. Sometimes the things we bring into our homes carry more than just history. They carry connections to places and events we don't understand. Pay attention to what you buy, where it came from, what it might be connected to. And if you wake up at 3:17 a.m. and can't move, remember, it's not trying to hurt you. It's asking for help. If this story disturbed you, hit that like button. Subscribe for more true horror stories, and drop a comment telling me which part scared you most. Stay safe out there, friends, and check the history of anything vintage you bring home.